They'll live. 1, 2, 3. Hello, darlings. We are live. So, hi, this is Suzanna Quintana. I am Chris Godinez. I am the host of We Need to Talk with Chris Godinez on every Sunday at noon here on YouTube, and then I post it over to Facebook. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. If you feel you need a therapist, please go to Google, type in therapy. Psychology Today will pop up. Click on that, and it will have all of the therapists in your area. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and Suzanna's alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other damn therapist or life coach for that matter. Boom, shakalaka, done. Okay, good. Hope we're going good with that. All right. Hi.
Hi again.
How are you?
Back.
It's good to see you. So Suzanna has just written a new book. So here's the deal. The book is pre-order right now. So where can they find it?
Yes, on Amazon.
On Amazon.
On Amazon, you can pre-order, and it's coming out in March.
Yes. So it'll be out in March. It is a pre-order. Go to Amazon. She is going to do a Audible.
Yes.
Okay.
So first comes the ebook in March,
Okay.
and then a few months after that, the print book, which
Okay.
will be in stores.
So ebook, print book, and then Audible.
Audible.
Okay. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And do you know who's the voice talent that's doing your book?
I do not.
Okay.
At this point.
So she's not going to be doing the readings, but it's going to be awesome. So go check it out. All right. So I got a few things that I need to get out of the way. You can find my book also on Amazon, and it is on Audible. It is on Kindle. So tour dates. So I will be in New Orleans, March 23rd. We have it up on Eventbrite. After that, I will be speaking at the Mensa convention in Phoenix at the Sheraton on July 4th at 2:30. So go to Mensa and look that up because I have nothing to do with that. They just said, hey, come talk. And I said, okay. After that, I will be going to Santa Barbara. So Santa Barbara will be July 6th. After that, Minnesota people. I listened to what you said. So I will be coming out on the weekend of the 13th. So I will be doing St. Paul, Minneapolis. So go to Eventbrite, check all that out. We've got more dates. August 3rd will be Anaheim, and August 31st, that Labor Day weekend will be Northern California. That'll be San Jose, San Francisco, and Sacramento. So that's what I know. Also, I will be going out to Austin and San Antonio at the end of October. So those are the dates. Check them out. Eventbrite, be there. Aloha. Okay, let's dive into it. So give me a background. Tell the audience where you came from, what happened, why you wrote the book, all that sort of good stuff.
Awesome. How much time do we got? Okay, so I am was a victim of narcissistic abuse. Now I am a survivor and a thriver. And I wrote this book specifically. I want to preface with the fact that gender and gender abuse has no gender, and narcissists certainly have no gender. They can be anybody: your boss, your lover, your friend, your parent, whoever.
Male, female.
Yes.
Yeah.
But my book is specific to my experience, and so I speak to women who are recovering and healing after narcissistic abuse. Because of my own story, what happened with me is that, and this is what you hear from a lot of victims of emotional abuse, is that you don't even realize that you're being abused until you're out of it. And I liken it to, I was in it for 16 years. I had no idea that I was a victim of abuse of any kind. I thought I was the crazy one. I thought I was the pathetic one and too emotional and too sensitive and all of to that. So
That makes me mad when I hear that, I got to tell you. Because every single abuser I ever know, they put us in these two circles of too much, not enough, too much, not enough. So you're too emotional, you're too this, but you're not enough this, you're not enough that. And that leads to...
I was also high maintenance. All sorts of stuff. I was a mess.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I escaped, I likened it to getting out of solitary confinement. You know, it's like when you feel the sun in your face for the first time, and then you realize, oh, I was in the darkness. I didn't even know that I was in the darkness. And one of the things on my recovery and healing process that I discovered was that the first thing I had to do was figure out who the hell was that woman looking at me in the mirror, because I had no idea who she was. I had been wiped out emotionally, beaten down emotionally to such an extent that I just looked in the mirror and I'm like, who is that pathetic mess staring back at me? So that was the beginning of my journey to, and that's the key to surviving a narcissist and recovering and healing fully, is that you have to get back in touch, and that's what my book is about. You have to get back in touch with that person that you were before the abuse started. Because when we're in the abuse, especially women, we tend to put down that you can call it your gut instinct or your intuition or whatever it is. What I call it is that girl that you used to be back when, you know, you did believe in yourself, and you believed you could fly, and you could beat all the boys in the neighborhood, and you could do, you know, your dreams couldn't even fit in the Grand Canyon. And then you meet your abuser, and slowly and surely over time, all of that gets chipped away to the point where you put that girl you used to be in a corner. You tell her to, hey, you need to shut the hell up because this guy's great. And you stop listening to her or your gut instinct or intuition, whatever you want to call it. So that's the first person that you need to get back in touch with on your journey.
Absolutely. So I don't know about you guys, and hi to everybody. I'm just seeing all the comments now because I didn't realize they didn't turn on automatically. So hi everybody. So when we get out of an abusive relationship, it literally is like what is it called? Tabula rasa, where it's like a wiped clean slate. It's like we don't know who the hell we are. We don't know our likes, our dislikes, what to wear, where to go, what to think, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's really scary.
It is. And can I just say that is the main reason, do not get into another relationship.
Right.
Until you have figured out until you recognize that woman in the mirror.
Right.
And you know exactly who she is.
Thank you. Oh my God. I am so glad you said that. So the biggest mistake that we see, and by the way, Suzanna is a life coach, guys. I don't know if you knew this or not, but she's a life coach. So if you are out of state, if you are in Europe, if you're in India or Pakistan or any of these other places that people have been contacting me, she's your girl. So I will be putting up her information on my Facebook page, and I will put it up somewhere here in the description so that you can
reach out to me on Facebook.
Yeah, or reach out to Suzanna Quintana on Facebook so that you can get with her. So her grammar gone. She and Rick Points are the two that I recommend that can do life coaching over Skype and over phone. So these are your people. Okay. Argentina. Wow. Hi. So yeah, we dive into relationships right after leaving the abusive relationship because we're trying to soothe ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's a bad idea because if you don't know who you are, trust me, some effing abuser is more than happy to tell you who you are.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, you need to learn who the woman in the mirror is so that nowadays I can spot crazy coming from a mile away. Yes. They can't even get in if they wanted to. Right. But when you're in that vulnerable situation where you're still recovering and you're still very tender, your emotions are still there. You may even still have feelings for your abuser. You may still even love your abuser.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. So did you go through that when you were leaving?
I absolutely did. And I went through both periods, so I can speak to both, to the mistake and to the success. And the mistake that we make, because I went back to my abuser once, the average time I think is 7 times for a woman to go back to her abuser.
Right. Same with guys.
Sense.
Same with guys. Yeah.
It makes sense because we just think, oh my God, I still love him or her or whatever, and we can't make it without them. But anyway, the mistake that I made was that I tried to fight all those feelings for my ex because when you're going through, especially like a divorce process, and they're punishing you and doing all these terrible things to you, I felt ashamed that I still had feelings for him because I had been with him for almost 2 decades. So, and I had children with him. Right. So the mistake that I made was trying to fight those feelings. The problem is when we try to fight those feelings, we're taking that energy away from our healing and recovery, and we're putting it on the abuser again, right? They don't deserve any of our time or thoughts or heart or anything anymore.
Not one more second.
Not one more.
Well, and here's the thing. I think that we get hit with so much shame when we're going through it that we have these emotions, and what we tend to do on a psychological level is what you resist persists because you're giving it energy to push back. So instead of just going, oh, look, pink elephant in the corner of the living room taking a shit. Okay, well, there it is. Instead of just acknowledging it and going, yeah, it's there. We go, oh my God, pink elephant. I don't want to think about it. 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 And what am I thinking about the whole time? So your abuser ends up taking up a huge amount of your space in your head. So yeah, that's common.
Yeah.
And it's guys and girls, guys. It's guys and girls. So it's Suzanna wrote it from the perspective of female being abused by a male. But let me tell you something. Abusers have the same fucking playbook. I don't care who they are. I don't care where in the world they are. They all do the exact same goddamn things.
Right.
A little passionate about that. So.
You can add my father to that list.
Yeah. So it's very in flying monkeys. So I think when we come out of an abusive relationship, it's imperative that we stay single, like you said, and work on ourselves, because we need to really see who our tribe is and who our tribe is not. Talk about flying monkeys.
Oh God, and that was the hardest. Oh, I think that was, I think that was the hardest part of my recovery and healing, is finding out who your real friends are. And as it turned out, it wasn't who I thought.
Right.
Who were my real friends.
Right.
And that was heartbreaking for me, because at the time when I needed them most,
they weren't there.
They weren't there because they couldn't get off the fence, which I thought they couldn't get off the fence, which means they're on the side of my abuser.
Bingo.
Right? If they can't get off the fence, no.
Yeah.
If there's any question and they're not 100%, we all need that friend that's like, he's a fucking asshole. Get rid of him. You deserve better.
Yep.
And if anybody's saying any different, if anybody's trying to play devil's advocate, I used to have people, my friends say that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me play devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I've learned. The devil doesn't need an advocate, right?
Right.
Doesn't need one.
Right. And people who are on the quote unquote fence, they're cowards, basically. And when you're dealing with a flying monkey, and Suzanna and I were just talking about this, you are either dealing with somebody who is a minor narcissist themselves, and they are kowtowing to the major narcissist. In other words, they're getting narcissistic supply by triangulating you with them, and hurting you and harming you and spreading lies and doing all of sort of this stuff. Or you are dealing with somebody who's just ignorant and they don't understand how abuse works, and they need to be educated. And if after educating them, they still continue to either be on the fence or side with your abuser, be done.
Yeah.
Be done. You don't need it. You don't need it. So smear campaign, talk to me.
Oh, okay. This is a good one. So I actually just had an experience in the past few days, because I don't speak to anybody from the town that I lived in with my abuser. I was fortunate enough, because I know it's very difficult to do this. I was fortunate enough that I got to move out of state. I got to come back to Arizona. Oh, that was the best. But the smear campaign, what I realized was that it had started long before I left, which was so interesting to me, because now that I look back with hindsight, I would look back on how people treated me, or some of his friends would react to me in those past few years. And this is when I was more and more isolated. I didn't leave the house very often and stopped going out. But I just noticed there was a sense of, okay, I don't know. And nobody reached out to me, of course, but he was spinning a narrative to prepare himself for the eventual breaking up. And so as the story went, and once I left, and like I said, I was fortunate that I got to get out of Dodge and move 3 states away, which didn't stop him from cyberstalking me, though.
No.
Or having me followed. But that's another story.
Oh, yeah. Well, we need to talk about that later on, though,
Okay.
because people do go through that.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
But what I discovered was that this narrative that, and I will say my saving grace, I don't know where I got the wisdom to do this, but number one thing you need to do is block, unfollow, unfriend, anybody, anything that you think even has a somewhat tie to your past. And I was fortunate because I had that wisdom and I did it right away, right? Every single person, there wasn't a person in the town that I lived in that I unfollowed everybody, and I unfriended him and all of that. But I would hear tidbits, and because I had moved to another state, I didn't hear a whole lot.
Right.
But I found out that the narrative that had been building for years was that I was emotionally unstable,
right,
that I was suffering from depression. And then eventually when I left, let me get this straight. I had left him and took our children because I was following another man. I was living, I don't know. I had another man that I was breaking up our marriage and family for. And then I moved back to my home state of Arizona because of this man. And I'm like, where's this man? Where can I because I couldn't really use the man at the time. So anyway, that was the story, which conveniently And so everybody felt sorry for him,
Right,
right? And I wasn't in the town to defend myself,
right,
which is not worth to try to defend yourself.
No.
Anyway, don't waste any time on that trying to convince anybody.
Thank you.
But yeah, so that was the narrative, and it conveniently covered up the fact of why I really left was his interest in fucking around with 20-year-old immigrant girls.
Funny how they accuse us of the very thing that they are doing themselves.
Yes. And grooming these girls to replace me, because there were 4 of them that came to the town. So he thought, well, I'll just throw out my line and I'll see which one of them.
Which one sticks?
He caught one. Yeah.
Yeah, they do that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So basically it's the same story over and over and over. Everybody's story is different, and yet they are all the same. Male, female, older, younger, doesn't matter. The abuser does the same behavior over and over and over again. And the biggest mistake that we make as targets of abuse is that when somebody starts smearing our good name, we immediately go, oh, but that's wrong. No, I need to defend myself. No, take a deep breath. You do not. You do not. Because when you start, the second you get on the defensive, you've lost.
Yeah.
You've lost, because these fuckers have been smearing you for years, and they have been spinning whatever story, how they want you to be seen. So it's really interesting to me how they try to attack the things that you value the most. So if you are known for your honesty, they will say that you're a liar. If you are known for your faithfulness, they will say that you're a cheater. If you are known for your, expertise in a certain area, they'll say that you're dangerous and incompetent. They will do that because they don't want anybody to believe you. And if you defend yourself against all of these lies, first of all, let me just make this perfectly clear. People who truly know you, who have seen the consistency of who you are, know that these lies are a bunch of bullshit. People who are willing to believe these lies are either flying monkeys or they're ignorant, one of the two. So if after, again, educating them, and they are still choosing to be on the fence or to side with the abuser, be done. Be done. They're not worth your fucking time. And Suzanna, the biggest thing that people tell me is the fear of being alone. So I get that whole, oh my God, I've cleaned out my friend closet and it's empty and I'm terrified because I'm alone. So talk about that. What did you do?
Yeah. I was alone for a while, and, I did my healing and recovery alone. And let me tell you, that was the key to my success, because crawling out of that hole, there was a lot of work that I had to do by myself. Now, of course, I had certain support, let's say in, friends, new friends that I made, or my mother, or things like that. But ultimately the work and recovery, yes, I was alone a lot of the times, and I spent many days and nights crying into my palms, and there was nobody there to hug me or get me through it. But here's the alternative. Did I want to go back to that? That's what I realized, is that, okay, I'm just alone right now, but guess what? Alone is good.
Right.
Alone is great. I mean, I would have given anything. I remember when I was, especially like the last 4 or 5 years in the marriage, is that I would love when he would go to work, or when I got to take maybe a small road trip by myself or something like that. And I would dream these big dreams, like, what if I could just go to a movie, or what if I could go home and he wasn't there, or, so don't knock being alone. Right. It's different from being lonely. And I was so lonely in my marriage.
Right.
I was never lonely during my recovery and healing.
So, and when we're talking about recovering and healing, it's working on you. This is what people don't understand, is when you get out of an abusive relationship, the very first person you need to get into a relationship with is yourself. Because we don't know who we are, and we've lost all sense of self-esteem. It's like we can't even hold ourselves kindly or gently because we have this abuser's bullshit going through our head going, well, you're not good enough, and you're this, and you're too much this, and you're not enough that, and you're this, you're this, you're this. So the work needs to be done alone. Nobody can do it for you. I can't do it for you. Susanna can't do it for you. Your buddies can't do it for you. Some fuck buddy can't do it for you. Ain't happening. So you got to do the work by yourself. It is. And it is a lonely journey. It can be, because you're having to confront the original wound, which is the inner child stuff. So if we were raised by abusers, guess what, guys? This needs to be dealt with. But it is imperative that you do not get into another relationship until you can, honest to God, look yourself in the eyes, in the mirror, and like what you tell yourself. Not so much what you see, because, you know, but it's what we tell ourselves. So when you are in a good relationship with you, you enjoy your own company, you're taking yourself out on dates, you're taking yourself out to the movies and out to dinner, and you enjoy it, and you're working, and you know who you are, then you're ready to date. Then you're ready to
then
get
you're
back.
going to attract the people that you deserve.
Exactly.
The good people you deserve.
Exactly. Because once you have a sense of self-esteem, you, like you said, I can recognize bullshit walking and talking a mile and a half away, you know, and 9 times out of 10, when abusers see somebody who's powerful, and what I mean by powerful is secure in yourself, secure in who you are, and nobody can tell you who you are, they don't even come around, because they know they're not going to get anywhere. They're looking for easy targets. They're looking for easy pickings. So let's talk about cyberstalking. Let's talk about the obsessive ex syndrome. So, okay, and we've got some questions coming through. So we're going to do 10 more minutes of talking, and then we're going to start answering questions. So when we're dealing with a narcissist or a malignant borderline, remember, a malignant, guys, I'm not talking the low end of the spectrum. I'm not talking the quiet ones. I'm not talking the self-harming ones or the hermit ones. I am talking the witch and the queen. So when we are dealing with an abuser of any kind, they cannot stand losing. Everything to them is a win or lose proposition. Every conversation is a win or lose proposition. So let me just clue you into something. If you're in a conversation to win, you've already lost.
Yeah.
So what abusers do is they become obsessive. When they don't win, they have to win at any cost. And let's go into what happened to you.
Especially when you're the one that leaves the narcissist, which is what I did.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had found out, well, first let me say and clarify that when normal, healthy people get a divorce, right, and they move on, and you'll hear that where people will say, oh, he found somebody else, right? And my ex did find somebody else, many somebody else's. But narcissists don't move on. It's not like they're just, because they're not normally healthy people, right? The way that they're thinking.
Yep.
So what happened in my case was that because I left him, there was still the way that he was in the marriage, which was controlling and obsessive and needing to know everything about me and trying to control everything about me. So that just trickled over, and it just metamorphized into different ways of doing that. So and again, I moved 3 states over. So he began vigorously cyber stalking me in every sense of the word. And he had done this when we were together, as far as he would get into my emails. Somehow he would figure out passwords, or he would change my passwords. We had a landline that we had built, this brand new, huge house. It was huge. He still lives there with his child bride. So anyway, that's a different story.
Breathe. It's okay. Okay, let it go. Let it go.
But there was this, we had just moved in, so I wasn't really familiar with the basement. So the internet had gone out. So I thought, oh, I'll go searching. I don't know what I was searching for, but for cords or I don't know, whatever, connection. And I had found that he had put a tape recorder hooked up to my landline. He had been listening to all my calls.
Wow.
So when I left, it was just an extension of that, as far as he was getting into my bank accounts, into my credit cards, into my emails. He was reading my emails between my lawyer and myself. I was vigilant too. I would change all my passwords constantly. He was still getting into everything.
He probably had his keystroke logger.
He had something. Yeah. He had something, I even had a private investigator who said that he was probably using third-party services to do it, because it was so deep and intrusive. And like I said, I wasn't just oblivious. I was constantly changing my security questions and stuff like that.
Right.
He was getting into my Facebook and reading private messages between my son and I. It was just nonstop. And then the other thing that he was doing was also physically stalking me. He had a private investigator follow me. And he admitted to this because when he was under investigation for it. And then he was also stalking me when, he broke into my house at one point. And again, he lives 3 states away.
Right.
He went through my master bedroom closet. And then I would find these things out because he'd send me emails like, well, you're doing this and you're doing that. And it's like, okay, we're not together at this point. We're going through a divorce.
Right.
Right. So that went on for, I didn't even know he was doing this. I didn't find out until about 2 years after I had left him that he was doing this. But, and to this day, he still reads my stuff. Hi.
Yeah, right.
Or he has his flying monkeys, you know, check in on me and read what I'm writing and whatever else. I know he is because I see it in how it manifests in other places. So.
Well, so here's the tips I want you guys to take into consideration. Any domestic violence hotline will have tips for how to stay safe from cyberstalking. The best thing you can do is not allow them access to anything. So if you're, you know, using the computer and you need to talk to a lawyer, do not use your home computer. Go to the library. Go to the library, use the computers at the library.
Yeah.
Get a different cell phone, get a burner number, get something different, because I can guarantee you they will put stuff on there to track where you're going. Now, I had a situation where I was working with a woman that was getting away from crazy and opening up a brand new bank account, not in the same bank, not even the same branch, not nothing. It was completely different. He had a tracker device that she didn't know about on her phone, and he showed up at the bank while she was trying to open the account. So you've got to be careful. You've got to be smart about it. And people are in such shock when we come out of an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And our automatic, literally knee-jerk response is, oh, no, they couldn't do that.
Right.
Oh, they would never. No, that's not, because we're so used to making excuses for these motherfuckers that we never allow ourselves to go, yeah, they could do that. They probably will put a tracking device on my phone, and they probably are having some sort of keystroke logger on my computer. So anything that your abuser has got access to, don't use. Don't use, except for completely innocuous things. If it has anything to do with your safety plan, it has anything to do with getting the hell out, don't use it. Go to the library.
Yes.
And the librarian that was posting on my YouTube last week for this question, she said that you can have books sent to the library. It's like you can request books for the library. So if you can't afford the book, you can request a book. So request the books that I talk about, and they should send them to the library, and you can check them out there. You're going to need to be smart about this. You're going to need to be careful, because these people are devious, they're crazy, and they're dangerous. So here's the other thing. Once you get out, get a ring. The ring ding dong thing. What the hell am I talking about? The doorbell. Doorbell. Thank you. Ding dong thing. You know what I mean. So you get the ring. You put cameras up. I got cameras all over this house. I got cameras on the outside. I got cameras on the inside. Why? Because I've had a stalker. So you put the ring on, and you make sure that everybody and their dog knows about it. You contact the local police department, which I have done. You know, it's like you do that. You don't feel. What abusers do is they try to make us feel shamed, and they try to be like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, well, you know, maybe I shouldn't tell her. I've told all my neighbors. I've told the police department. I've told everybody. So it's like, you don't leave anything to chance. You have a right to protect yourself from stalkers. And the biggest thing to do is once you leave and you're safe and you're out, you block everybody, you know, and the true people will side with you. The false ones will side with them. You see where I'm going? And honestly, the truth eventually comes out, and people are able to see the crazy because they can't keep up the bullshit facade of, oh, I'm the same one, I'm the same one, I'm the same one. Really? How many restraining orders do you have now? You know, it's like, yeah.
And don't underestimate the lengths they'll go to, because go to the library. That is the best tip that I had. I went to the library and I created a new Gmail address so that the only way I logged in was at the library. So there's no way they can get into that.
Right.
But my ex had opened up a fraudulent account with LifeLock, the identity protection company.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't protect my identity, but
but
opened up a separate account that I was completely oblivious to. So he got to see, you know, if I got a credit report or if I got a new cell phone or things like that. So there's no link that they will go to.
So how did you find out about the LifeLock thing? How did you find out?
I found out because my middle son had actually gone spring break to his father's house, and he's very computer proficient, whatever. And he was always getting into computers and stuff anyway. And he discovered a 5-page spreadsheet that had every single detail of my information.
Wow.
The bigger stuff, like he had, credit cards and bank accounts and all that stuff and emails and stuff like that, down to little details that may be used for security accounts that I never told him. He had my parents' license plate numbers, the day they were married, the day they got their wedding. Crazy shit.
Right.
Crazy.
The other thing I've seen these guys do, guys and gals, they will open up credit cards. If they have your social in any way, shape, or form, they will open up credit cards. They will run them up. They will try to bankrupt you. They will try to do all sorts of crazy, ruin your credit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because they're fucking assholes. So if you didn't have your son there to find that out,
I would have never known.
She never would have known.
No.
So it's really important that you don't underestimate these people, that you do go and check as much stuff publicly, your name. I bring up my name every once in a while just to see what's going on out there. So you want to lock down your privacy. This is the other mistake that people make, is when they're on social media, they don't lock down their privacy. You have got to lock down your privacy, and don't be afraid of reporting people. I know Facebook doesn't really do much because they're, Anyway, the point being is that you need to lock down your privacy as much as you possibly can on social media. And don't be afraid. This is what they want. The reason that he was stalking Suzanna and the reason why my stalker was stalking me is because they wanted to instill fear and they wanted to shut us the fuck up. And guess what, motherfuckers? I'm not going to shut up for anybody. So deal with it. Boom, shakalaka.
I'm still talking.
That's right. I'm still standing. So, well, actually, I'm sitting. But, So that's their whole reason, is that they want the target of abuse to continue to be the target of abuse. And when you stand up to these fuckers and go, bitch, I'm done, then they have to start reevaluating because, maybe you're not that easy target after all. So anything else we want to tell them before we dive into the questions? Is there anything else you want to make sure to?
I think you just handled that last part very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into the questions here, people. We got questions. I have a dear friend who was on the fence who thought they were being helpful, bunny ears. Could showing them this video be a good idea or too much too soon? I'll let you take that one.
This is what my gut instinct is telling you, is that you don't want to do either. If you've got somebody who, is that a dear friend? If they're on the fence, is it really a dear friend? Because I had my only two friends when I was in the marriage. I considered them my best friends. I could go to them and tell them anything, and we had been friends for many, many years. But when the shit hit the fan, they just couldn't wholly be on my side. And they would say things like that, trying to be helpful. They would make a lot of excuses for him, which was another red flag.
Huge.
So that's a big red flag, because what they're saying is, I don't really believe you.
Right.
That's what they're saying.
That's exactly it. If somebody's, again, playing devil's advocate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the thing. There's something called, backlash bias, something like that. So when somebody's already made up their mind and they're rigid thinking, so think of it this way. Disordered people have got insanely rigid thinking. It's splitting, all good, all bad, black, white, all nothing. So when they've already made up their mind about something, even though you're presenting them with a whole bunch of evidences to the contrary, all you got to do is look at politics to see that one. They won't listen to it because their rigid thinking is unwilling to be, flexible. It's unwilling to be, fluid. And that's the sign of somebody who's exceedingly disordered, because healthy, normal people are able to take incoming information that conflicts with something that they believe and able to go, okay, here's this, what I know, here's this new information. Oh, okay, I need to kind of take this into consideration and see what to do with this and whether we need to change our opinion or whether we need to continue with what we were thinking. So, but that's what healthy people do. Unhealthy people go, new incoming information that conflicts with what I know. Well, fuck you, you're wrong. I'm not going to listen. Da-da-da-da-da. We see it in politics. So it's the same thing with abusers and with flying monkeys. If a flying monkey has already aligned themselves by being neutral or devil's advocate or anything like that, they've already made up their minds. They've shown you who they are. Believe them the first time.
Yeah, and it's going to break your heart. I'll tell you that. If you try to show them this video, try to convince them that, of what you're going through, that is going to break your heart.
Absolutely, because then they will really show you who they are, and it ain't going to be pretty.
Yeah.
So there's that question. I hope that answered it. Suzanne, looking back, what was the attraction? What made you want to marry him? what would you say to your 20-year-old self?
Yeah, well, it was 30-year-old self, but same thing. So when I first met him, my story is such a typical example of love bombing. I can't even tell you. When I first met him, I was already in a vulnerable spot because I had been going through the divorce from my first husband. So I was feeling like I had no self-esteem, and combining that with being an empath and having an abusive narcissistic father, I was a whole lot of in trouble. So when I met him, it was this whirlwind. When I first met him, I was not attracted to him. He didn't like it when I used to tell people this, but I wasn't attracted to him. And there wasn't a physical attraction there, but he was so intent on winning me that it was probably a month into the relationship where he said that our souls had been meant by the universe to meet, and that I was the mother of his unborn children. And I didn't have the wherewithal at the time. I thought I had just struck the jackpot.
Right.
Because I didn't have any healthy examples of men in my life. So I thought, wow, he loves me so much. And he just thinks I'm the best thing that's ever happened, and I'm going to save him, right? Because there were signs right away. Remember we talked last time about the red flags that could supply communist grade?
Oh,
yeah. Boxes and boxes of them is what I have. So at the time, though, he was so persistent and insistent. I must have broken up with him, I don't know, 20 times, just going home because we worked in the same studio, and just going home at night and saying, because I would find something else about him, that he had either lied or did this in his past, or was cheating on his girlfriend with his best friend's wife, and this kind of shit. So I would break up with him and say, no, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And then he would just pour that, sweet and sugar on me to the point where, I was putty in his hands. And it happened. It was, when I look back now, I realize that it had nothing to do with the normal progression of love.
Yes.
Because love's not in a hurry.
Nope.
Because love doesn't want to trap you.
Nope.
Right? A narcissist wants to trap you, so that when their mask starts falling off, you're already so deep in love, and probably maybe even have children with them, that you're like, you can't leave.
Yeah. So what would you tell your 30-year-old self? If you could go back and you could meet her and you could take her out to coffee, what would you say?
Oh, I might play it, because I have a really dark sense of humor. So I might go along with it a little while to where I would come out of it better off than he would. But definitely I would, the point is that I wasn't after my first husband, I didn't go through the process of learning who I was. I didn't know, I had shut that girl up that I used to be. So by the time that with my first husband, I had put all my love, it was like a bank account where I put everything that I had into their savings, right? Into their bank account. My bank account was depleted.
Right.
So when I met the narcissist and he was just love bombing the hell out of me, I was like, okay, well, here's all that love that I gave over here, and I'm going to give it to you.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that we have to tell our younger selves. When we write ourselves a letter, we have to forgive ourselves.
Yeah.
And we have to be kind and compassionate, and recognize that most of us who get involved in abusive relationships have had abusive parents. Original wound. So the big thing is healing that original wound. So instead of going out and looking for somebody who reminds us of that parent, so half a shit sandwich, total shit sandwich, right? We have to work on ourselves. So kindness and compassion with your inner child, your inner 20-year-old, your inner 30-year-old, your inner 40-year-old, however old you were when you got with the abuser. And just reminding them that they deserve to have a good relationship with themselves first and foremost. And then you can have a good relationship with somebody else.
Yeah.
So, all right, Suzanne, how did you deal with being so quickly replaced and everyone in your circle acts like it's normal? That's a good question.
That was the hardest thing. I'd rather be in labor 10 times over than go through that again. Because it doesn't get any worse. I was a woman in my 40s who found out that her husband was living a double life, and grooming, 20-year-old immigrant girls to replace me. It doesn't get worse than that. And at the time, my self-esteem, well, there was no self-esteem.
Right.
There was no self-worth. So it was just a continuation of, I'm this pathetic, awful, crazy mess. And now I have to deal with the fact that how do I compete with a 20-something-year-old? But here's the thing. And at the same time, nobody believed me that this was going on because they didn't think he could be capable of, he is a sexual predator. He
Right.
groomed them. He stalked them.
Mhm.
He made sure that they were dependent on him.
Mhm.
And then he exploited them by using something like, which is common with older men and younger girls, to get them dependent on them for citizenship, right? To stay in the country.
Right.
People, and especially even my two closest friends, it was just too difficult for them to wrap their heads around the fact that this person I had invested my entire life with and had children with could turn out to be such a monster, right? And do such a thing. So I had this double heartbreak of nobody believing me
Mhm.
and having to deal with, you know, just that rug being pulled out from under. And no, it was worse than a rug. It was like, what I felt like is that in the middle of the night, I was woken up because my house is on fire. And I run out holding my kids' hands. And I'm standing out there just charred with nothing on me but the clothes I have on. And my whole life is burned to the ground.
Mhm.
And I have to start all over.
Mhm.
But the one thing that I will say is that when I was, you know, in that place of feeling terrible about myself and thinking, how can I compete with her? And feeling that jealousy and rage and insecurity and all that stuff that when you find out your partner is cheating, right? That's enough of a blow to your trust and stuff like that. But when you're finding out that it's like somebody who's 25 years younger than you, I mean, holy shit.
Well,
that's
and
like,
the family and the friends are like okay with it. Like, oh, that's normal. Oh,
yes,
that's okay.
And this was why I was, and again, I know that not everybody can do this, but I was so lucky to get out of that town because what happened was it was a very, very small town and we had built up this community of friends, right? Mutual friends. And I left, he puts her in, plops her into place, and everybody just functions as normal around them.
So what you guys need to remember is 2 abusers and 2 flying monkeys, okay, if they are minor narcissists themselves, we have no meaning to them any more than this cup does. We are objects. It's like Legos. You replace one head with another, and that's exactly what happened. So that's what they do. We are objects to them. We are not people to them. We don't have emotions to them. We are objects to be used. We have no more meaning to them than this fucking candle, okay? So you got to remember that. Okay, any tips? Where did we go? Any tips on recuperating energy after being emotionally drained?
Well, I think that goes back to what we were saying about you just need to focus on yourself because you are depleted. You're depleted in every sense. So the one thing to start building yourself back up is to make sure that all that energy is staying within you.
Exactly.
And you need to go through what you need to go through and feel what you need to feel. And if you're feeling anger or rage or sadness or pain or craziness, whatever that is, you need to feel it and you need to push through it. But the minute that you're putting the energy anywhere else, like trying to convince others of your story or to believe you, or trying to fight the feelings you have for your ex, or also, I will say, fighting the illusion.
Yes.
One of the things that is crucial in recovering is that when we're looking back, and I believe this is why we return to our abusers so often, is because we're looking back on the illusion of what we're looking back. Like with me, I would look back on the man that he pretended to be.
Right.
And I had to go through a deconstruction, basically, of looking and going, who is this person actually? And discovering that it was an illusion. And so while I felt love for him, and of course his love is an illusion because they don't know how to love. Right. But even the love I felt for him, and this was so hard for me to come to this truth, but even the love I felt for him was based on an illusion. Right. Right.
Exactly. What they do is they mirror us back to ourselves perfectly, and who we really fall in love with is ourselves. If we could just wrap our heads around that and recognize how freaking amazing each one of us really is, you know, because let me tell you something, narcissists don't go after the mediocre. baby dolls, they go after the cream of the fucking crop. They do.
That's right.
Because they see something that we have, which is called empathy, that they will never possess. Maybe a sense of humor, maybe great intelligence, whatever. And they go for it thinking that if they can just hook into us, they're going to have it too. And when they realize that they cannot get it by osmosis, that's when the mask slips. And that's when they go after us and devalue and discard. So taking care of self-care is huge. Get with a good therapist. Work on your self-esteem. Get the self-esteem workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. Start building boundaries with the Harriet Breaker, the Disease to Please book. Start working on the original wound with CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. Start working on the original wound with the Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor. Start working on you. You are worthy. You above all are worthy of your own love, your own time, and your own attention. And we don't ever think that way when we come out of an abusive relationship because we've been groomed and trained to put everything onto the abuser.
Yes. I'd just like to add with to understand that our thought patterns have been conditioned to how we think about ourselves. So especially when we first come out and we're in that tender state, one of the things that we have to recognize, and that's why it's so important to figure out who was that girl or person before the abuse, because that's what narcissists do. Is when they first meet you, they glom onto all the great things about you. Yep. And then slowly over time, that's exactly what they bring you down for and make you doubt in yourself.
Oh God, yeah.
So like one of the things with me was that I was really good with money, and I'm smart. Sorry, I am smarter than him. Right. So anyway, that was one of the things he constantly in the beginning was like, wow, you're so smart and you're so great with money and da-da-da. Flash forward 16 years later, I left that marriage thinking, I am so stupid. I can't figure things out. I'm terrible with money. All these terrible things about myself. So it took me reminding myself of who I used to be and exactly what the narcissist does is they take all the great things about you. But all those great things are still there. They're still there. Exactly. And abuse by proxy also happens. It may not be the abuser themselves saying things to you. So like in a friend situation, it may be the abuser filling the target of abuse head full of stuff, and they will turn around and tell you that nasty stuff, try to get you to doubt yourself so that you'll shut up, basically. So in taking care of yourself, it is all about self-esteem. It is. It's like, do yoga, do some meditation, work the books that I'm talking about, get with a counselor, work on the original wound, figure out the hows and the whys. It's all about taking care of you and loving you fully. Okay, next question. So when telling your story, do you only have to change the names of people? How do I get my story out with you without using actual names? And is it enough to just change names? I just don't use a name. Everything else is... I print stuff all the time and put it out there. And just don't use a name. So for me, when I wrote my book, I changed names. And I do, in this one, it's a conglomeration of stories that I've picked up over the last 15 years working as a therapist. So you talk to an entertainment attorney to make sure that you're covered. If you're feeling that scared about it, you can always use a pen name. You don't have to write under your real name. You can write under a pen name, but you never want to use real names because that will get you into trouble. So hope that answers that question. Okay, is no contact a must with all disordered people? Can I answer that one? Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes, it is. Parents and siblings, Gray Rock, limited contact for a while now, and they are still triangulating and being flying monkeys for one another. You want to take that one, or you want me to? Yeah, you start, and then I'd love to tell about my father. Okie dokie. So yes, no contact is a must for disordered people. You can't change them, guys, because you didn't break them. You didn't break them. You can't fix them. The only people that can fix them is them. So if they're working on themselves, if they're in DBT therapy and they're serious about it, and not narcissists, because narcissists don't change. But if somebody is, borderline personality disorder at the lower end of the spectrum, and they are working on themselves and taking personal responsibility, you can still have contact with them, provided they are taking personal responsibility and still working on themselves. If, however, they have slid down the malignancy line, they are to the point where they are controlling, manipulating, harmful, sadistic, etc., be done. So parents and siblings, really super hard to realize that your family of origin, your blood, does not have your back.
that is the hardest thing for us to deal with. So it's, again, that inner child issue. So comforting the inner child and letting that inner child know that you're the parent now. You are going to be re-raising them, and they do not need the family of origin. They need you. Gray rock. So when you gray rock, what you're doing is you gray rock when you have to have contact with these people. So that would be if you are still in some sort of relationship with them, or you still want to maintain some sort of relationship. So the examples of that would be, not everybody in the family is crazy. There's a few cousins or a few siblings that you still want to talk to, so you're still going to occasionally have contact with these people. You're going to gray rock. Or if you're the parent of a child, you're going to need to learn gray rock. So what abusers do is they poke the bear, 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 because they want the bear to go, rawr, because then they can go, oh, I didn't do anything. I didn't deserve that. Look how crazy you are. Blah, 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 blah. So what you want to do is gray rock. And what gray rock is it's no emotion. It's literally, it's no emotion. So it's like a Zen master. So poking the bear, poking the bear, poking the bear, and you just go, that's interesting. Look at the time. Gotta go. So no emotion. You give them nothing. Is that going to piss them off? You bet. Are they going to escalate? Probably. And guess who's going to look crazy? Not you. Not you. So you gray rock that way. If they are triangulating, so remember, abusers need a third-party villain to focus all of the energy on. So they will be talking about somebody who they've had no contact with for over 2 or 3 years, as if they were still having contact with them, because they need a villain to focus the energy on, because what they're doing to the target of abuse is going, look over here, don't look over here, look over here, don't look over here. So you want to just cut contact with all of these people. If they're flying monkeys, they're minor narcissists. If you've already educated them on what's going on and they're still siding with the abuser, they're narcissists. Be done. Be done, be done, be done. Okay, go.
Yes. So the hardest thing that I had to do, but I just got to a point, same thing, is just to recognize that and coming out victims of narcissistic abuse, one of the hardest things for us to accept is that our own family. I mean, it's hard enough when it's our own close friends, but it's a whole other ballgame when it's your own family, when it's your own parent. And that's what happened with me, is that my father, who it wasn't a matter of him just getting off the fence. He sided with my ex-husband, even though he knew all the pain that had been caused. He sided with him in court, with court psychologists. He lied about me, just stuff that, I'm a parent myself, just things that I could not fathom and wrap my head around. So that's where the pain comes. But it just got to a point where he kept showing me who he was and what he was going to continue doing. And so there was no confrontation. There was no anger on my part. Again, I wasn't going to put that energy into it. It was just, I no longer have a father. You've showed me who you are. You've showed me whose side you are on. So good luck. And you guys make a nice couple.
Yeah, exactly. So it really is grieving the loss of the illusion. So it's a double whammy, because we're grieving the loss of the illusion of the romantic partner or the boss or the friend or whatever, but we're also grieving the loss of, I thought I had family. I thought I had somebody having my back. So it's allowing yourself to grieve, and it's called complicated grief. Okay, so complicated grief is when we have mixed emotions, okay, contrary emotions going on at the same time. I love them, I hate them, I love them, I hate them, I love them, I hate them, oh my God, I want to kill them, but they're my parent, oh my God, I did it, guilt, blah, blah, blah. So let me just clue you in. Healthy, normal relationships, especially parental relationships, do not have fear, obligation, or guilt, okay? So when we are getting rid of dysfunctional family members and we're saying, that's it, I'm done, no more. Yes, you are going to have all of these thoughts and emotions. You're going to have conflicting emotions. You write it out. You write it out. Get it out of your head. Get it onto paper. Dear mom, dear dad, dear sibling, dear whatever. Here's the good, the bad, the ugly, the horrific. At the very, very end, take your power back. I am evicting you from my head. You do not get to live here one more second. Nuh-uh. I'm raising the rent. I'm worth more than this. Fuck the fuckity fuck out of fucking fuck you. Trot it out to the barbecue. Read it out loud once. Burn it. Be done. And give yourself permission to grieve, because you are going to. It's okay. Okay, I'm still inside the cage. Can you give me a good idea to build a good strategy for me to escape as soon as possible? Okay, well, without knowing the exact situation, it's going to be a very generic one. So here's the first thing. Your safety comes first. So go to any and all of the domestic violence hotlines. They will have little tabs that you can click on for a safety plan, for an escape plan. You're going to need money of your own. You need to squirrel that away. You need to start getting back in touch with your family and friends that you isolated from when the abuser told you to not have contact with them anymore. You're going to need to have a support system. You're going to need to figure out how to get enough money to get out. You're going to contact a domestic violence shelter. And I don't know if you're male or female, but there are domestic violence shelters for both. At least in one state there is for men. So you're going to need to start doing things like that. The most important thing is that you cannot heal if you are in the environment in which you are being damaged. So you can do a little bit. I mean, absolutely, for sure. You can start getting the strength to break free and get out, but you're not going to completely heal. So it's going to be a real battle, because this person, whoever they are, male or female, is going to be over here filling your head full of shit. Meanwhile, that other part of you is going, I don't deserve this, I want out. And it's going to be a real cognitive dissonance. You're going to have a lot of back and forth, okay? So you want to start getting your money together. You want to get your own job and your own transportation. And if you can't, you fucking take the bus. You get a job. You got to have your own money, because that's how abusers control, is that they hold on to the money and they refuse to allow the target of abuse to have their own money. And they want an accounting of how much money we have and this, that, and the other thing. You've got to get your own bank account in a bank that they do not bank at, that they know nothing about. And you need to start telling people, the ones you can trust, as many people as you can, hey, I'm in a deep situation, I need support, and you'll be surprised, because when you start letting your real family and friends know what's going on, the ones that you that the abuser wanted you to shove away because they saw him or her for the piece of shit that they really are, you'll be surprised at the support that you'll really get. So, because there's a reason the abuser wants you to not have contact with family and friends. When they start isolating like that, it's because they see that the family and friends see the abuser for what they are. So get back in touch with those people that the abuser is telling you you can't be in touch with. Absolutely. But you're going to have to be smart about it, because I'll tell you what, they do monitor phones. They do monitor the computers. You're going to have to start creating your own stuff at the library. Do you see where I'm going? So there you go. Did you want to add to that? Did I cover it?
And when the point is for a lawyer, get a good lawyer. If you've got to go to 2 or 3 different lawyers before you find a good one, because that will make or break you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then also, just going back to the people that you pushed away and whatever else is, when I came out of what I call the darkness, there were my closest high school friends, especially my one best friend in particular. Shout out to Mitzi, who's the best, but she was waiting for me right there all along, but I had pushed everybody out on his suggestion, knowing that, because she was the first one who was like, oh my God, thank God you're getting out of that.
Right.
You're divorcing him.
Right. Exactly. And that's the big thing, is that I think for survivors of abuse, is that when we come out of those relationships, we think that we have damaged them so badly that there's no coming back. Let me just clue you into something, people. When an abuser suggests or demands that you get rid of all your family and friends, and you get rid of them on the abuser's behalf, you may have slammed the door shut, but the real family and friends never locked it. Never locked it. We're just standing on the other side waiting for you to walk through. So remember that. And your real friends will be there for you. And they are usually the ones that the abuser targeted and wanted you to get rid of. And that includes family members. That includes children that saw the abuser for the piece of shit that they are. So, they're still all just standing there, just waiting for you to walk through the door. Don't be afraid. Walk through the door. Be done. Okay. All right. My dark triad ex made 2 verbal death threats. Will I always have to be hypervigilant with my safety? Oh, fuck yeah. Absolutely. These fuckers don't quit. You got to understand something. It's about the win. It's about control, and it's about the win. So if they've made 2 verbal death threats, you know what you do? You start documenting, you get as much evidence as possible, and you go get a restraining order. Now, in some states, they do have lifetime restraining orders, which I don't understand why they don't fucking have one in Arizona, but you go get a restraining order. So anytime anything is done, you get it, you get it. Like in Arizona, I don't know about other states, but in Arizona, you can tape somebody as long as one of you knows it's being taped, and it's usually the person doing the taping. So you can do that. So, you know, whether it's admissible in court, I don't know, but at least you have the evidence that this fucker made a threat against you. So you gather your evidence. Yes, you are always going to be hypervigilant. No contact, no contact, no contact. The question is verbal threats. So if they're calling you on the phone, change your fucking phone number. Seriously. There's no reason why this person needs to be verbally threatening you. Or if they are, you know, coming to your, you know, oh, I just happen to be at the same gym that you work out at, or I just happen to be at the grocery store that you go to. Change your grocery stores. And if they follow you there, okay, now you've got some evidence you can give to the courts. So you need to document, you need to document, you need to document, and you need to not be afraid. And if you need to, file a restraining order. Anything to add to that?
No, I had 2 restraining orders, and yeah, I mean, what else can you do? But don't ever let your guard down.
Nope, never.
Never.
Never, never let your guard down. As soon as somebody shows you who they are and they're crazy, they're cray-cray, they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, they're like, you know, willing to destroy themselves to try to destroy you, yeah, you need to be hypervigilant, absolutely. And do not be afraid to call the police, and do not be afraid to put in a restraining order, absolutely. Yes, you will always have to do that. Because here's the thing, when you're dealing with somebody who is that disordered, that dangerous, that crazy, they will maybe move on to somebody else, you know, temporarily, but I can guarantee you, as soon as their narcissistic supply dries up, you'll get some crazy text either threatening you again or, oh, baby, I've changed, I've been to therapy, bullshit, 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 you know, that kind of thing. So just be aware. Yeah, it's change your number. There's no reason they should be speaking to you. If they're following you to the places that you hang out with, get a restraining order. Abso-fucking-lutely. But you're going to need your evidence. You're going to need to show the court a series of harassments, and then they'll give it to you. So, could you talk about the damage it does to targets not being believed by people who are actively involved and know what's going on? I feel it's further gaslighting.
It is. It is further gaslighting.
You're right.
Absolutely. But the problem is that, like in my situation, I didn't even know what gaslighting was. I thought I was the problem. And so when people didn't believe me, who knew what was going on, I thought, okay, that was just more evidence that I was crazy, or that I was making mountains out of molehills, right? Yeah. So what it does is, if you're still in it and that's happening, oftentimes we don't even, like I said, our self-esteem is beaten to such a pulp that we don't even recognize it ourselves. It took me leaving to understand that. And finally you get to a place where where your self-worth, you get that self-worth back, you get that self-esteem back, and you realize you're not the one with the problem. You never were. You didn't deserve the abuse that happened to you. There's no reason for you to feel guilty or feel shameful. And all those people that couldn't be there for you, your gain, because then you're going to open your life up to good, true, real friends.
Exactly. And remember, if somebody is not believing you, they're not your friend. They are not your friend. I'm sorry, but it's kind of like Ghostbusters. We believe you. It's like, that's what you want. That's what a friend does, is that they believe you and they talk to you and they support you. That's what friends do. But what the abuser does is they set it up so all of those friends are pushed out of your life. They make it so that the friends can't stay in your life because of the abuse by proxy. So the ones that are left are the ones that don't believe you. So there that is. Okay, question. I just busted the kid's therapist as a flying monkey. Can you speak to the damage from this to my children and what to look for in the next one? Did your kids go to therapy after you left?
Actually, my middle son, we were in, that's how the whole thing started, is that we had been going to therapy under force because narcissists don't like to go until I had something to hold over his head, which I discovered is double life with these girls. So I said, okay, we're going to therapy or I'm going to leave you. So got him in, but the first 2 therapists loved him, because narcissists are masters at charming the therapists. Yeah. So it was all my problem, which further re-victimized me. But then I found a psychologist who was an expert on narcissistic personality disorder. And he was the one who told me within the first session, first of all, he wouldn't see me and my husband at the time together, because he wanted to tell me that he was a narcissist and this is what they do. So our middle son, because what narcissists do to their children, and it was, we had 3 children. So the oldest he ignored, The middle, he took his rage out on and was the scapegoat, and the youngest was the golden child. That's what narcissists do, right?
Yeah.
That's the pattern. So
Yeah.
my middle son was also going to the psychologist, and that was at the point where the psychologist, and again, this is not one that was hurting us. He was helping us, but it was at that point that he told me that I just needed to be there 100% for my children, instead of being a mediator between trying to mediate a relationship between them and their father, because I was just doing my kids more harm.
Right. So this is what happens, is that abusers will pick the least trained therapist. They'll pick somebody who knows nothing about personality disorders. They'll pick somebody who knows nothing about domestic violence. They'll pick somebody who's fresh out of college, because they know that those people don't have the training or the background or the experience to deal with a master manipulator like that. So when I have couples coming in or kids coming in, I don't side with either parent. I listen to the kid and I let them tell me what's going on. And I'll tell you what, the kids will tell you exactly who the crazy parent is. They will. So it's interesting to me to watch these narcissists in these divorce cases try to manipulate it to get a therapist that knows nothing about personality disorders, domestic violence, high conflict, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what you want to do is you want someone who specializes in personality disorders. You want someone who specializes in domestic violence. Like, they know their shit. Where did they get their training? What books have they read? Where, how many children have they worked with? What's their success rate? You ask them as many questions as you need to until you feel comfortable. And you don't just pick the first Tom, Dick, or Harriet that comes out of the book. You don't. You got to ask them a bunch of questions. You do. And you want to look for recommendations. You do. So word of mouth is huge. It's like, talk to other moms that are in this type of situation. There are support groups out there. Go to outofthefog.website is a great resource. So get onto some of the forums there to get some resources in your area to know what and who to look for. Yes, what the narcissist will do is they will come in and they will just try to charm. That is a huge red flag to me. As soon as somebody's trying to be charming, they've never done anything wrong in their entire life. I'm like, ding, disordered, hello. So, and I've had that happen too. It's like they'll come in to see me singularly and, claim that they're innocent and everything's fine and they've never had anything wrong in their relationship and they just don't understand why this person is leaving them. Well, that's bullshit. It takes two to tango, and you can't diagnose, what's going on if the other party is not there. So they'll try to do that too. And then they'll try to start couples counseling that way. And I won't do that. If I start with somebody singularly, I stay with them singularly. If I start with them as a couple, I stay with them as a couple. So it does damage the kids. Absolutely. If you get an inexperienced therapist that's trying to do reunification with a fucking abuser, holy mother of God, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? That will damage the child like nobody's business. And that will give the abuser the in to start manipulating the story with the therapist. And yeah, if that's what you're finding, you need to turn them into the board. You do. You just do. This person is practicing outside of their scope if they don't know how to deal with a narcissist. So anyway, there is that. So what to look for in the next one? You look for somebody who's got the training and the experience. You look for somebody that maybe's written a book on it. You look for somebody that is good with kids. Do you see where I'm going with that? And you question them a lot. What is your experience? What is your training? How do you know about this stuff? What is your opinion on this? You find out. And unfortunately, there's a lot of fucking humanist counselors out there that are like, oh, we don't want to date with anybody. We don't want to hurt anybody's little feelings. Yeah, well, fuck you. Have you been in an abusive relationship? Do you have kids going through this? Fuck you if you don't. Do you see where I'm going with that? And you don't have to have kids or to understand that. But sweet baby Jesus, you have to have the education. And if they don't, pass them on. Don't even go to them. Whew. Damn, I'm passionate about that one. Well, it pisses me off because they give people like me a bad reputation because they don't understand what they're dealing with. So yeah, you absolutely fire them if they're siding with the abuser. And you do not go for one who's a licensed associate counselor. That means they're right fresh out of school. They do not have their professional license yet, which says to me they don't have the experience. No. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you need somebody who has been around the block a few times. because these fuckers are fucking eely, man. They are slimy eels, and they are wriggly and slippery, and you want somebody who can stand in the face of them and call them on their shit. There you go. All right. Do you have anything else to add to that? I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. I will tell you everything you just said. That's what happened with me. And it wasn't until this psychologist, who was an expert, and he was the first one to point it out. And still to this day, I say that he saved my life.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise they'll just keep manipulating the gullible and the naive. So yeah, absolutely. All right. Can you talk to the dangers of naive friends, speaking of naive, trying to be mediators, and how this can do more harm than help? So did you have family and friends trying to mediate and get you guys back together?
Well, my friends were, like I said, like I said, they would make excuses for him. Or one of my friends was my closest friend. She was a therapist. So a lot of what she did in her conversations with me was, well, why do you think he's behaving like this? Was there something in his past? Maybe because his relationship with his mother, there was a lot of anger, that just on and on and on. But what I found was that was just hurting me, that I felt just being victimized in those conversations, because I felt like, okay, there's these excuses being made for his behavior, right? So in essence, what I had to come to believe, and this is when you have to convince anybody, you have to understand that what that person is really saying is that I don't believe you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up at about 1:30. Is that cool with you?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to keep going until 1:30 because there's a lot of questions on this, so I want to make sure to hit all of this. Okay, how do I stop ruminating on my abusers after going no contact? So how do I stop thinking about them? What helps you?
After going no contact, well, that was impossible for me because I had children. So, that would be paradise, wouldn't it? Oh my God.
What is this no contact?
What is that like? Yeah, I will say that's a tough journey. Obviously, it's going to be easier as you move farther down the road. But in the beginning, it's tough. It's tough, especially if you still have ties, whether with children, or let's say you're going through a divorce process, or you're somehow still, integrated into each other's lives. It's absolutely tough. And again, one of those things is, try to, first, don't feel ashamed or feel guilty because you do think about them, or even that you do feel like that you miss them or feel lonely without them, or think about even going back. Don't beat yourself up for that. That's perfectly natural.
It's normal. But
then stop and get back to your healing journey and just refocus yourself. I became an expert on that. I had to, because when his name would even pop up in my email, especially after the experience of being cyberstalked and going through a divorce with a narcissist where he had made it very clear he was going to punish me for leaving him. So just the name popping up in my email would send me running to the bathroom because I would just feel physically sick. So getting to the point where understanding it's a journey, you're not going to be able to just cut them out of your heart from the get-go. It is a process, it is a journey, but just to refocus. I found that when that would pop up, one of the things that I would do is remind myself that, okay, these voices in my head are not mine, they're his, right? If I'm feeling bad about myself or whatever, I'm thinking, okay, that's his voice. The other thing I would do is I would give myself a reality check of, what am I missing here? Do I really miss him? Let's remind myself of the illusion, what I would be going back to, how much pain I used to be in.
Yes.
And just, take all that energy and just keep putting it back on yourself. And when it's like you're on this road, and when you take a little exit, because his name, a name pops up, or you start thinking about, or whatever, you have to deal with him or whatever. It's just like, just make, that's fine if you got to take a little off ramp, but then just get back on that road.
Exactly. So remember, what we're dealing with when we leave is an addiction, because they have trained us with the intermittent positive rewards, just like a dog. So it's just like drug addiction. So it's like, oh, this feels great. This is awesome. Oh shit, I feel awful. It's horrible. I'm having, all these terrible things. Wait, no, this is great. This is awesome. This is the best ever. So it's just like being addicted to drugs or alcohol, because they get us hooked with that positive, intermittent positive reward system. Okay. It's the same exact thing. So literally, we go through withdrawals when we leave. We do, because our body and our brains have been conditioned to have dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrines, all the feel-good chemicals. Oh shit, everything's leaving. What the hell's going on? I don't understand. Norepinephrines, serotonin, dopamine. Do you see where I'm going? It's a roller coaster. And it literally is detoxing from a fucking drug. So we're not addicted to the abuse. I want to make this perfectly clear, because I swear to God and all is holy, if one more fucking person says that, I'm going to bitch slap them into next week. So what it is we are addicted to the abuser. We're addicted to the abuser because they trained us like a damn dog. So when you're training a dog, you don't give a treat every single time it sits. When you're teaching him to sit, oh, here's a treat. Okay, sit. Okay, good boy or good girl. And you give him a treat. But then you don't give him a treat. And then you give him a treat. And then you don't give him a treat. And then pretty soon the dog goes, oh, I'll get a treat. Oh, this is great. And then they sit as soon as it even looks like you're giving them the hand motion to sit, because they're looking for the treat. And that's the same thing we do. So it literally is, we are detoxing from the intermittent positive rewards. That's why it is so difficult in the beginning. And this is also why it is so dangerous to take a walk down memory lane in the beginning. That's what leads us to going back. So what you have to do is, when you find yourself ruminating about them, thinking about them, and you're just like, oh, I really miss them, or geez, I remember when, you all got to stop that shit right now. Like seriously, like put a fork in it, be done. And you're going to go and you're going to write down every rotten motherfucking thing they have ever done to you. And you're going to put that multiple places around your house, so that if our little brain starts doing the whole walk down memory lane, you can be like, oh yeah. Yeah, I remember when they devalued me. Yeah, I remember when they pushed all my friends out of my life. I remember when fill in the blank. So, and especially it happens at night, because our brains have nothing better to do.
Yeah.
So
2 in the morning.
2 in the morning, yeah. So this again is withdrawing. It happens to drug addicts as well. This is when we start having drug dreams. This is when we dream about the person. Why? Because our dopamine, serotonins, and norepinephrines are wondering where that high is. So when that happens, you have to literally be like, huh, I thought of so-and-so. Not today, Satan. You know, it's like thought stopping. Okay, yeah, I had the thought. Not my problem anymore. Period. I'm my problem. They are not my problem. And then you start doing things to help you go to sleep, such as deep breathing, yoga, telling yourself self-soothing thoughts, thinking about good things, and breathing. You just replace, because this is not real. This never was. And it's not you that's the problem. It's them that's the problem. And unfortunately, our brains have been conditioned to be like, but I got to fix it, but I got to fix it, but I got to fix it, I got to fix it. You work on The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker. You write down every rotten thing that they ever did to you so that you remember it. And every single time that their image or their memory pops up, you go, not today. You're not my problem. You are no longer my problem. And then you work on you. So.
Yes. And I just want to add that looking back, I remember those moments when he would do something. The one thing that I just considered the cruelest thing he could ever do is when I was at my bottom, like he would do something he would say something or what have you, where I would just be in a puddle on the floor and just begging him for mercy. Just please, and he would just stand over me with that narcissist glare. So help me God, his eyes turned black. And just stare at me with absolutely zero compassion or empathy toward me. And I remember there were moments that he would do things like that looking back now, and this is part of, me uncovering what the illusion was. But I remember in those moments, sometimes I would think to myself, I'm like, this is what I need to remember. This is the part of him I need to remember later on. Not I feel so great today. But like I talk about in my book, is one of the things that we don't realize is that we've been conditioned, just like you were just saying, to accept breadcrumbs when we're starving to death.
Exactly.
Right? We're so hungry for love, real love and compassion and just those things that good human beings offer one another. So we get to a point where we're just so hungry. Well, when they do toss a little breadcrumb, we're like, oh my God, thank you. And that, again, that's the addicted part of it.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Yep.
Yeah, it really is. So, okay, next question. I sense that the few friends I trust feel morally superior to me as they look after their own aging parents. They mention forgiveness a lot. Is it normal to feel chronic self-doubt? Let me take this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. Forgiveness is not what people think it is, okay? Forgiveness, people seem to think that we are supposed to forgive abusers and still allow them to continue to abuse. Survey says, incorrect response. Thank you for playing. Please go the fuck away. So what it is, forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is about us, okay? You can forgive someone and still not allow that motherfucker in your life. And I don't care who the fuck they are. I don't care who the fuck they think they are. So oftentimes what I will see people do is they will say, oh, well, you know, if you were a good Christian or you were a good Buddhist, oh, fucking bullshit. Bull fucking shit. Here's the deal. There is a thing called idiot compassion. Pema Chodron, who is the American Buddhist nun, talks about this. So idiot compassion is allowing an abuser to continue to stay in your life and continue to abuse you even after they have shown you who they really are. That is idiot compassion. No bueno. Don't do that. You can love somebody from afar. You can love somebody from afar. You do not need to have them in your life. If they are harmful, hurtful, abusive, you don't have to have them in your life. You can love them. You can forgive them, but they do not get to be in your life. Why? Because being in your life is a goddamn privilege. Think about it. You are worthy, and it's a privilege to be in your life. I'll tell you what, survivors are some of the most brilliant, beautiful, shiny, sparkly, empathic, amazing people I have ever met. Girl. And here's the thing. Abusers, if they, there's a meme out there that says, if you'd wanted me to write nicely about you, you probably should have fucking acted differently. Guess what? You want me to wipe your ass in the old age home? You probably should have fucking acted differently. You are under no obligation to take care of an abusive parent. You are not. You are not. If they had wanted you to take care of them, maybe they shouldn't have been an abusive piece of shit. So where everybody gets hung up is they go, oh, but in the Bible, it says, honor thy mother and father. And the very next motherfucking line is, parents, do not bring your children to anger. Boom, mic drop, biblical. There we go. So you are under no obligation to take care of these people. You are not. And if somebody is being, quote unquote, morally superior, how fucking Christian is that? How fucking Buddhist is that? Fuck the fuck out of those fucking assholes. Fuck that shit. Sideways with an unlubricated baseball bat. You get rid of these people. Those are not friends. Those are not friends. Those are not friends. If they're making you feel less than, there's a competition going on. Yeah. Oh, Ma, look at how I take care of my parents. But oh, honey child, you are just, oh, bless your little heart. You're not taking care of your parents, are you? You're just not a very good person, are you? Oh, fuck that shit. Yeah. Go ahead. You're going to say so that I can hear it. I can see it on your face.
I'm just like, I have the same problem with, after all the emotional abuse I've watched my 3 children to different degrees and still to this day recovering from and changed their life because of. And so when anybody says to me, but he's their father, he loves them in his own way. And I'm like, fuck you. He doesn't give a shit about his kids because anybody who abuses the mother of his children is abusing his children.
Bingo.
It's like secondhand smoke. You can still get poisoned from it. You can still be affected by it. But this whole thing, even with my own father, this whole thing that just because someone's a parent means they're inherently able to love their children or whatever, when I have seen firsthand the collateral damage that has happened to all 3 of my children who are used as weapons to get to me.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, you owe them nothing. So here's the question to ask yourself. If you were not related to these people, would you have anything to do with them? If the answer is no, act accordingly. Be done. You can love them and have compassion for them from afar so that they do not continue to harm you. So there we go. And get rid of those friends. Yeah. Because real friends, here's a clue. Real friends make you feel uplifted, happy, joyful, fulfilled, confident, Self-assured, self-assured. When you're with somebody who is your real friend, when you're not with somebody who is not your real friend, you feel icky. You feel like you've been slimed. So that's a clue that, again, trust your gut. How do you feel when you're with these morally superior fuckers?
Yes, my two adjectives for the friends that I trust, I feel safe with. The ones I don't, I feel like I have to go like this and look over my shoulder because I don't know what they're going to do.
Exactly. All right. How do the naive variety of flying monkeys come to terms with the fact that they've been manipulated into being abusers by proxy? They generally feel very guilty. They do when they understand what's going on and they really get it. And they've done the research. And this is the clue. If somebody is really interested in you and really interested in figuring out what you've been through and what you've gone through, they will educate themselves. Once you go, hello, here's what's going on. Here are the books you need to read. Here's how you need to educate yourself. They will run out. They will get the books. They will read them. They will watch the videos. They will do what needs to happen. They'll get a therapist and they'll make amends. Okay. That's what happens. And generally when the ones that were naive usually are very remorseful and shocked. And it is for them, it's just as shocking as it was for us when we took the blinders off. So when they're taking their blinders off, they've got the double whammy of, oh shit, this was going on and I did nothing. So oftentimes they will make amends. They will express deep remorse and their behavior changes. They stop siding with the fucking abuser. So that's generally what I have found. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay. Question. My ex-narcopath, 100% sure, has been going to counseling for 2 years, even now with new supply, and puts on our shared parenting counselor. Why does he and why do I care? Oh, you want to take that one or you want me to take it?
I'll just do a short answer and then you can do the long answer. But why do you care? Because you're still emotionally attached and invested. Bingo. And you've got to move. If it's been 2 years, then you need to focus back on yourself because it looks like you're putting a little much too energy into what he's doing.
Right. So basically what it is that it's that sense, it's that inner child in us, okay? Our inner child is really strong on fair, right? So when it sees that, they're going to counseling, our little inner child goes, they should know. The counselor should see that this person is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. What the fuck? So it's that sense of fairness. So if you work with your inner child, again, put the energy back on you. It's the inner child wanting to be heard because we weren't heard when we were little and we weren't heard when we were leaving our crazy ex. So when we see that they're seeing a counselor, that little inner child goes, well, but they should know and they should see them and why? And and it's like, honest to God, it doesn't matter what he or she does anymore. It doesn't. And yes, they put it on your shared parenting counselor or calendar so that they know that you see that they're going to a counselor and what the implied fuck you is that, see, I'm healthy, I'm normal, I'm in a counselor. But what they're not saying is what's actually going on in that counseling session. If they're with somebody who doesn't understand narcissistic personality disorder, it could just be a venting session every week for 2 years. I've seen them do that too. So,
and don't ever be fooled that narcissists have moved on and have a better life because it's all for show. They're they're living a charade and they're trying to convince you, if they still have ties to you, they're just trying to convince you that, look, everything's great since you're gone. It's just a charade.
Total. They're not happy. Mm-mm. They can pretend. Remember, communal narcissists are great at putting it out that, oh, look how perfect my life is. Look at this, look at that, look over here, don't look over here. But behind closed doors, they're raging, they're screaming, they're not happy, it's never enough, it's not good enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I'm going to take this one last question, 2 last questions, and then we got to stop. All right, so can a child be the golden child for one disordered parent and the scapegoat for the other disordered parent? Yes, they can. Opposite roles for each disordered parent. How much cognitive dissonance do you think that causes? Holy shit. Yeah, absolutely. It depends on what the motivation is and the payoff is for each disordered parent. Yes, they absolutely can do that. Absolutely. Who were you with your dad? Were you like the golden child, the scapegoat, the ignored one? What was going on?
I was, I don't really know, to be honest. It was just me and my younger brother, and he kind of just ignored us both.
Oh,
All we
okay.
saw from him was when the only way I got his attention was when I got into trouble. So I got into a lot of trouble.
Okay, got it. Yep, that makes sense. So yeah, it's different for every single disordered person. It causes a huge amount of cognitive dissonance. It makes the child more vulnerable to being manipulated. That's why they do it. Whether they actually tag team up and talk about it ahead of time, probably not, but it's a way to control the child. Absolutely. All right, last question. What do we do with all the bottled emotions? What did you do with yours?
You unbottle them.
Poof.
You can't shove that shit down, because then you're going to end up like, I'm not even going to say who that is in my life, but you're going to end up just, Maya Angelou says, do something with that anger, write it, paint it, scream it, march it, whatever you got to do with it. But anger is good and healthy.
Yes.
To feel and to go through, and even rage, if that's what you're feeling. I can't tell you how many times that rage would, I'd go from angry to absolute rage to absolute depression. But the process of going through it, you have to go through it, because if you don't, then it turns into bitterness and resentment and feelings of revenge.
Yep.
Those are the worst, because that's just taking the poison yourself and killing your own self slowly. So you've got to go through it. It's the hardest thing that you'll ever do. I'll testify to that right now, but then you will be free of it and you'll come out on the other side.
So everybody deals with emotions differently. Some people are physical. So think about kids. When a child is dealing with an emotion, they process it physically. So it's like when I was working at the hospice at the New Song Center dealing with grief in children, the parents would be very concerned, because they would tell, Bobby or Tommy or whoever, hey, grandma died or is dying of cancer or whatever. And the kid would go, uh-huh, and then run outside and play really hard and then come back in and have more questions. So some people are physical processors, okay? So I've got a punching bag out on my back porch and I wail on that bitch. I do. And I like to get it out physically, okay? And that's one way to start accessing the softer emotions, because for me, it was never safe to be vulnerable. So I do the hard emotion first and then the crying starts. Other people, writing. Get it out of your head, get it onto paper. Yeah, out of your head onto paper, and then let it go. Other people, hard exercise. It depends on how. So
or hiking.
Yeah,
I hike that shit off.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, there's no room at the top except for you and your amazing self. You just can't take it up there.
Nope, exactly. So you figure out whether you're a physical processor or whether you are an intellectual processor, and then you process it and you get it out and you give yourself permission, because how many times have our abuser said, I'll give you something to cry about. Don't you dare cry. You can't be angry at me, blah, 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 blah. So give yourself permission. So write it out, get physical with it on a punching bag, go hiking, go for a good strong walk, do the karate punches, do whatever you need to do, but get it out. And another thing that I tell people, if they're verbal, because some people are verbal, some people are more verbal than they are writing or physical, get in the car and we play the game of Bluetooth or crazy, right? Because nobody knows who you're talking to. And you go for a drive and you fucking talk it out. That's another way to do it.
I do that to my dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you take your dog for drives?
Oh, no. I mean, in the house, I'm just like,
talking it out. So
I just let it fly.
You just let it fly. So, okay. Thanks, you guys, for all of the great questions. Thank you to Suzanna for coming in and doing this. Now, remember, her book is going to be on pre-sale right now on Amazon. Go pre-order it. She's going to have the Kindle. Wait, which is coming out first?
The ebook first.
Ebook first.
Print book then.
Print.
And then audiobook. Find me on Facebook.
Yes.
Go to my website.
Yes.
SuzannaQuintana.com.
And Suzanna is a life coach, guys. Life coach. So she is available to do Skype and phone calls for people that are out of state, because I can't, but she can. So, and since she is a survivor of abuse, she knows her shit. So she and Rick Points are your girl and your guy. So these are the people you want to call. So I will put her information up on this thing once I get it off, and go to Eventbrite, check out all my upcoming events. And that's it. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.